So hi everyone, welcome to the live. Finally, I got everything correct. So earlier there was a bit of a noise as well, so I had to wait just a couple of minutes before we, came up live. So a few of you requested like I push it back by 30 minutes or so, just so that folks can join in. And yeah, here we are. So I'll just give a couple of minutes for people to join in, and then once there's like a sizable amount of audience, and then you guys can start asking questions, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So you guys can send questions like privately as well. And yeah, hi. Yes. Okay, so currently there are not any questions, but you guys can put it either publicly or privately. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and yeah. Hopefully this timing works, because if this timing works, then I will do that for the subsequent Q&As as well. So yeah, I'm doing good. How are you? All is well with me. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead and type your questions. You guys don't have to, say that you guys have a question or anything. Yeah. So what exactly is your pattern here? Like, if you can give a bit more elaboration on that, that would be great. I keep looking at my SP social media and remembering past hurts, taking tarot reads. Okay. Anything else? I know it's bad, but when I'm triggered, I forget all. I want to change it. Okay. So, with regards to Chandan, like, yeah, the main thing that you have to do is that, like, you are currently right now, having a set of, patterns because you are believing in something, right? And you need to figure out, like, if those beliefs are helping you in, like, manifesting your desires, if they are in alignment to what you want. Like, what you want is union with your SP. But when you are like looking at your past, you're looking through social media and things like that, what you're doing is you are reinforcing things that are out of alignment to your desires. So you have to ask yourself, okay, if I were to be with my SP, or if I already know that union with my SP is a done deal, knowing what I know, would I be doing these things right now? And chances are the answer is no. And so you have to come at it from that perspective to slowly start changing stuff. And what I would do is that, like, cut off the things that you can cut off, like social media, mute it, or if it's really bad for you, block that person as well. Like, it's fine, so that you're not viewing things that are potentially triggering for you. And in the beginning, I always tell my clients, like, you need to cut down on the number of potential trigger points as much as possible. So even if you have like mutual friends or something, tell them not to talk about the SP and stuff, right? And as for the past, like, you can see it in two different ways, right? Either you can revise it such that like all things went well, or yes, there was a blowback, but the blowback wasn't as bad. So those are the two ways you can revise it. But honestly speaking, you don't even have to revise it. Like, you can say, okay, whatever happened, but right now I have a whole bright future ahead of me. And what am I going to do? I'm going to create a bright future for myself. So I'm not going to be remembering the past and tormenting myself in the process. Rather, I'm going to create a future that is, really favorable, where I'm living my dream life, and I'm going to be going towards that. And you can always make that decision. It's a simple choice, right? To not think about the past, rather think about the future, because you can only think about one thing. So, consciously shift your mind to thinking favorable things, the reality that you want to create, because the mind is unable to differentiate between the past, present, and the future. So by remembering the past, you're creating more of that, you're bringing more of that. So if I were you, what I would be doing is I would really tell myself to go and imagine the best case scenarios, right? Like the best things ever. Like maybe you guys are going out somewhere, you guys are watching movies, you guys are going on a vacation to your favorite country and things like that. Start breathing life into your desires, and that's what I would do. And and when you are triggered and things like that, and you go and take a tarot reading, chances are it's going to be very unfavorable. So rather than doing that, what I would do is that, look inwards, use your imagination, use your inner conversations, and get the reassurance from there instead. And surely, but like you will definitely get where you want to, but it might take a bit of time. So be patient with yourself, and also focus on other areas of your life as well. That's a good distraction in the meantime. Focus on your hobbies, focus on developing yourself as a person, and all these things. What it does is that it takes the pressure off of the SP side of things, and it also gives your life a bit of a balance as well. So I hope that helps. Bro, how to overcome self-doubt, and how should I trust the process and don't micromanage everything? So so with self-doubt, think about the times when you have achieved things, the times when you thought things were impossible for you to achieve, but you achieved them anyways. And think about the thought process you had back then, and think about how you achieved it despite that, right? So what this does is that it reinforces a positive pattern in your life, saying that, hey, even though I have doubted myself in the past here and there, I still managed to manifest whatever I wanted. So if I can do it then, I can do it now. So that's one way you can tackle self-doubt. And also re-emphasize and think about the strengths that you have. And what this does is that it gives you a positive morale boost as well. So every time when you're doubting yourself, think about the good parts of you, good aspects that you have, and really highlight that in your mind, because whatever that you focus on grows. And so the idea is that when you are focusing on the good things, it grows. Because when you are having self-doubt, chances are you're thinking about the negative aspects of yourself, right? And that gets reinforced in the process. So that's what I would do regarding self-doubt. And how do you trust the process? That comes through, time, honestly speaking. Trusting the process, like I always tell people, start manifesting smaller things, start doing experiments. That's one way you can trust the process. And as for micromanaging, then this opposite to micro is macro, right? So see the big picture, right? And tell yourself like, okay, I'm going to prioritize my peace and happiness, and I'm going to let my higher self sort it out all, and I don't have to micromanage anything. Manifestation is supposed to be more of a hands-off approach thing, where you are letting the higher self sort everything out. Why? Because you want to live your life. That is the point of the manifestation process. So you can tell yourself, by micromanaging, I'm only stressing myself out, and I'm exerting effort that is unnecessary. So I'm going to do the easiest thing possible, which is to take my hands off of the issue and go and enjoy my life. I'm taking the path of the least resistance. That is available to you if you want to take it. Right? So you can ask yourself, why am I, suffering? Why am I working hard when I don't have to? That doesn't make sense. So what am I going to do? I'm going to be taking the path of least resistance. Therefore, I'm not going to be micromanaging anything. I'm going to trust that everything will fall into place, however unlikely it may seem from where I stand right now. And so that's the thought process you have to sort of like drill in your mind. And before you know it, you will start like, micromanaging lesser and lesser as time goes by. And it's all about, for me at least, it's all about taking the path of least resistance, right? Giving myself the mental peace of mind, and trying to be relaxed as much as possible. If you prioritize that, naturally you will start micromanaging less, and that will really help you. Okay, how much you charge for coaching? DM me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hi Wendell, how are you? Okay, so there's another question. What's your recommendation on getting better at sats? Okay, so Neville always used to say this. I believe like he was picturing himself in another part of the home and things like that. That's why I always recommend sit in one place of your home, and imagine you being in another part of your home, and then like physically go to the location and like notice all the details and stuff. So that's one way. And think about a specific location that you often go to, like maybe your office cubicle and things like that. start imagining that, what does that place look like, and then when you go there, see, like, compare, like, okay, how accurate that was. And so that is one way I would do, like, improve my sets. And another thing is that, like, I would just, like, start imagining objects as well. So maybe like a fruit or like a tennis ball and things like that. I would just start imagining them, and I would, like, rotate them in my, hand as well. Like, I wouldn't just hold something, but I would also rotate them in my mind and, like, see all dimensions of it. So what that does is that it forces my mind to generate, like, 3D imagery, right? It's not just like a 2D flat image. So those are the ways that, like, I personally practice in order to get better at sets. But to be honest, like, I've always been good at visualizing, and that wasn't an issue for me. But if I were to recommend, like, something for a beginner, these are the things that I would do. Okay, how do you treat your SP while they are still in the process of conforming, when they are showing signs but not fully conformed yet? So this is a common kind of issue, right? And thanks, Mendel, for asking. So what I would do is that, with SP wise, like, if they are showing signs here and there, I would just respond to them neutrally. I wouldn't read in between the lines, or I would just take them at their word right now, and do whatever that needs to be done if there's an interactive element to it. But if they're saying stuff here and there that are good, but they're also saying stuff here and there that are not favorable, that are not in alignment to my desire, what I will do is I'll take what resonates, I'll use that as a positive boost, and I'll leave the rest. I wouldn't take too much, like, into consideration, like, what they are saying and what they're doing right now. And I will be focused more on the end state, the end desire, where I'm, happily in union with my SP, rather than, again, like, micromanaging anything in the middle, right? Because that's not our concern anyway. We want to exert least effort as possible, as I said earlier. So I would, don't really bother, with, like, whatever that they are saying. If interaction is relatively minimal, I would just, go with the flow. I wouldn't, like, try to initiate things and whatnot. But if they are, like, constantly daily coming in and things like that, if I have to initiate certain things here and there, I will. But I wouldn't have any expectations. That's another thing. I would have zero expectations with any of these interactions. Rather, what I would be focused on, again, is the end goal. And, whatever has to happen will happen. And as you said, Wendell, at one point, like, whatever needs to move will be moved, right? So that's what I would do here. Like, I would just, like, sit down, relax, and go about my life, knowing that whatever I want is already a done deal. So actually, there's something going on in my family, like, affair, and that is bothering me so much. So, like, what should I do? So you have to ask yourself, what is the outcome here that you would want? Right? Okay, something bad is happening, and what is the outcome that you want? You have to see it very objectively, like, strip down all the emotions and see it objectively. Like, do you want reconciliation? Do you want, the folks affected to get some space? What is it that you want? And then just see them experiencing that, right? Like, if you want reconciliation with your family and whatnot, start seeing your family as being a close-knit, well-bonded family, and them having the time of their lives and whatnot, and start imagining that, start putting everyone in that state. And what has to happen is that, because you're the only one with free will, everyone has to conform, right? So it really depends on what you want. It's all about just visualizing it and putting everyone in that state of mind, through your imaginal scenes. And you can even have inner conversations with your family from the premise that they have already gotten what you want them to get. And that's about it, honestly. I was thinking to block him or not. Okay, so this is regarding Chandan. So what I would say is that, like, it doesn't really matter if you block them or not, as long as you have the self-discipline to not, go and see them, their profile, and not constantly think about them, right? Because there's no point in blocking them, for example, if you are constantly unblocking them to see their profile. There's that aspect to it as well. So the main part of it is not whether to block him or not block him, but rather it's about having the self-discipline to not even think about it in the first place. I'm imagining he came and apologized and he's with me all the time. So I wouldn't place too much emphasis on the apology, because what the apology does is only reinforce the old story in your mind anyway. So I wouldn't focus too much on the apology and whatnot, because, like, one thing that I always tell my clients is, yes, get the apology if you want to, but brush it off ASAP. Why? Because we don't want to reinforce the fact that something unfavorable happened constantly in our mind. but rather I would focus on what you said, like the later part of it, which is he's with me all the time. That's what I would really focus on if I were you. But I'm 32 and my parents are keep asking me to get married. So that pressure on the outside is a reflection of the pressure that you're giving within, right? So you have to ask yourself, okay, am I giving myself the pressure? If so, why? If I already know that this is the person who I want to be with, if I already know that union with them is a done deal, would I feel as pressured as I am right now? And when you calm yourself within, the external world will follow as well. So I would say, like, focus on, calming the storm within and let the external world sort itself out in the meantime. Hi guys, thanks for joining. Okay, so bro, how to ignore of missing SP? I sometimes imagine that, okay, I'm having dinner with him and been to places with him. I get triggered that he is committed with her. When will I get connections? And okay, so what I would do here is basically, like, if you are ignoring SP, you don't have to ignore, you don't have to ignore the feeling. What I would do is that, okay, sit with it and ask, like, what aspects of them do you actually miss and why, right? And what I would do is that use your imagination. Whatever that you can't give yourself in the 3D, use your imagination, and that will really help you a lot here. Inner conversations are one of the solid ways that I always tell my clients to use to their advantage whenever they are missing their SPs. And imagine it, give yourself those things in your mind and really, like, immerse yourself in those scenes. And that's honestly, like, one of the best ways to go about it. And as for wondering, like, okay, when will I get the connection and things like that, you can tell yourself, like, okay, the moment I'm seeing it in my mind, that means that the possibility already exists. So it has to happen as long as I'm continuing to put my mind, redirecting my mind towards the end state of, like, where I'm in union with them, right? And whatever, again, needs to be moved will be moved, right? If there's a third party, they will move, they will go out of the picture. You don't have to wonder how, because even if you do, chances are you might not be able to figure it out anyway, so why bother? So again, it's all about exerting the least amount of effort and getting the maximum amount of results. So just take a step back and relax and focus on other aspects of your life. Like, if you are, like, going and having dinner, for example, don't make it all about him, right? Like, go and enjoy the food. Make it all about you, right? Like, never make it about the other person and feel a sense of longingness and stuff like that. I get where you're coming from, but what I would be doing is I would really come at it from the perspective, like, I'm the main character of my life. And if I'm going to a place that we have been together, and if I'm eating, I'm going to be focusing on how delicious the food was. And I'm going to be focused on how satisfied I am, rather than, oh, this was a place that we used to date, when will they come and things like that. Like, that's only going to make it worse for you. So what I would do is that placing the emphasis on you, because again, you are the main character here and not your SP. A message to you regarding coaching. Yeah, sure. After the live, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so can I please ask, I'm focusing on manifestation and my parents keep forcing me to arrange marriage. How to let go of that? I'm frustrated. See, you're an adult, right? Like, regardless of where you are in the world, I'm assuming you're from India, nobody can force you to do things that that you don't want to do, especially at your age, right? Like, folks can't even force me at my age. So my point is that, don't worry about the worst case happening, rather focus on the best case happening, right? The more you're reinforcing the worst case in your mind, the more evidence of it you're going to see. So, as Neville would say, deny the evidences that your senses is providing. In other words, shut the door to the 3D and focus on what you want as much as possible. You need to start redirecting your energy towards the things that you actually want. Start thinking about union. Start thinking about the exciting things instead, whether it's SP related or otherwise. And focus your attention there, and these things will have to go away. These things will fade away. As you do that, you'll realize, like, maybe your folks are, less pressurizing. They are, not talking about marriage as much and so on, right? Your reality will shift. In fact, we are constantly shifting into a new reality. So, every waking moment is a new reality for you. So use that to your advantage, and you can even say things like, I'm now stepping into a reality where everything is and everyone is favorable for me. right? So if I were you, these are the things that I would do, and rather than like reinforcing what's already like unfavorable, I would focus on the favorable aspects of my reality. Okay, let me just wave to a couple folks. Thanks for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. Okay, let me. Okay, there's another question. I'm continuously getting bad grades, even though I work hard in my exams. I'm scoring in the lowest section. This has affected my visa status, and now I'm scared. So, what I would do is that like see where your thought patterns are. Like, do you think like you're always like bad at the subject, or like ask yourself like one thing I will definitely say is that because you brought up visa right now, is don't make this like the middle for getting the visa, right? Like that might be one way, but there might be other ways for you to get into the country that you want to, and things like that, right? So what I would say is that start imagining yourself being in the country that you want to, and just roaming around and having fun and things like that. So that's that aspect to it. B, for this, like start putting in the idea that you are a fast learner, you absorb information really quickly, and when you are studying and when you are in the exams and whatnot, like mute out the other things, right? Like just come at it from the perspective that it's only you and what's in front of you right now. Don't tie in all the visa stuff, don't tie in everything into that, because that only adds a lot of pressure, and it also makes you focus lesser and lesser, right? What I would do is that focus on how good of a learner you are, and that you can do anything, and think about the times when you actually scored well for your exams, and bring that mentality back into where you are right now, and say, of course I can do this, why can't I? I'm a good student, I'm a good learner, of course I can do this. And start imagining that. And if you're retaking certain subjects right now, tell yourself like, okay, because if I'm already like I've done this once, surely I can do it now as well, because I already know the content and whatnot. So the idea is that you have to build up your confidence and just start doing this in a repeated fashion, and you'll be fine. But don't put the narrative that you have always sucked at school or things like that, right? Like what I would do is that I would start putting in the idea that I've always been a good student, learning is very easy for me and things like that, and that should work. And again, keep it separate from the whole visa thing, because this way you're cutting the like connection there, and you're giving yourself less pressure for this to really really work in order for the other thing to work, right? Stop connecting things together. Like keep this separate. You passing your exams is completely separate of a desire from you being in the country of your choice. Okay, so there's another private question. Is feeling important or repetition? I would say if you really have to choose in between those two, feeling or repetition, I would totally choose repetition, because repetition is like constantly spamming the subconscious mind, which is ever absorbing information and things like that. So that's what I would do if I were you, is I would tell myself that repetition is much more important. So I would constantly bombard my mind with like favorable thoughts and whatnot. So yeah. Sometimes I feel like I tiptoe between committing myself to my desire and settling back into old habits. What are some reasons why? I'm guessing insecurity and fear of failure. We do like comfort zone as well. Like we are like comfort seeking creatures. We do like comfort zones, and change is something that sometimes scares us. And of course there's obviously the fear of failure and whatnot, but yeah, and that's one major one as well, like fear of like, okay, what if this doesn't go well? I'm really comfortable where I am. So it's a combination of like, for me, I would say it's like the resistance to new things, to change, fear of failing, and just being very comfortable where you are right now. So like those are the things that I feel one would have commitment issues. And if you have commitment issues, ask yourself if that's what you want in the first place. Like if you really really want whatever that you think you're manifesting right now. So that's something for you to think about. I'm doing good, thank you. what what do if you stuck between two SPs and you don't know which to pick? Do you just focus on self concept? So what I would do if you're stuck between two SPs is, ask yourself like, okay, why are you even there in the first place? Like, there's a, like a logical way, there's a practical way of like evaluating this stuff. Like, okay, write down the qualities of each person and you see like, who has more pros than cons, and then you can, pick the logical choice. And like you can say like, okay, if I really, really have to choose, which one would I go for? Right? So if you really, really can't pick despite doing these types of evaluations in your mind, what I would do then, like, is what you said, like, focus on yourself, focus on other aspects of your life, and just say that the perfect person enters your life. The perfect person enters your life. The perfect person is now, in union with you and whatnot, right? Like, you don't even have to put a face to this person. It can be either amongst these two gentlemen or someone brand new can come into your life this way. But whoever comes in, that person will be the perfect one for you. So if I were you, if like making a choice is difficult, like that's what I would do. I'd go general and focus on the qualities that this ideal man would have, and think about what it would be like if I had the ideal partner in my life right now. And that's what I would focus on. How to know our desire is true heart desire and not coming from a place of need? That's a good question. So if it feels good, if it feels like it's coming from a place of ease, chances are it's coming from your heart, right? Like if it excites you, if it brings up all the positive feelings. If your first thought is like, once I get this desire, I'm going to show these people who laughed at me, who scoffed at me, where I'm at right now. If that's like your line of thought in the beginning when you are getting your desires and whatnot, then what I would suggest is that is probably not a favorable line of thought there, right? Because that is coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of need, because you have a need to prove to others that you are good enough for something, right? So I think you can really see like what's the first thing you will do if you get your desires. Will you be grateful? Will you be happy? Will you go around and enjoy your life? Will you share your happiness with your friends and family? Or is your first like thought like, I'm gonna post this on Instagram and show my haters where I'm at right now, right? So if you come at it from like that perspective, it's really kind of easy to identify. But one like thing that I always use is ask myself like, if it's coming from a place of ease, if I'm feeling favorable, and that's more than enough for me. So I hope that makes sense. Is meditation important? I would say it's not important, but it's definitely beneficial for sure. Like I don't think that anyone who's like manifesting, because we're constantly manifesting things into our life, right? But we're constantly not meditating either. But to consciously direct your mind towards certain things, is it beneficial to quiet your mind for like a couple of minutes before you actually start imagining your desire? Absolutely. So that way, yes, meditation is definitely beneficial. I would highly recommend incorporating some sort of meditation into your practice, into your daily routines, if you have not done so, because it definitely makes you more mindful of your thoughts. Your awareness is definitely increased as time goes by. So it's definitely beneficial in that regard. Yeah, even if it's not like some fancy meditation and stuff like that. It's just like watching your breath go in and out, eyes closed, and just sitting down somewhere. That's beneficial. Even if you can do it for like 5 to 10 minutes, like that duration might seem very short, but when you're meditating and things like that, time really, really slows down. So it's really, has a profound effect. So I would say like, it's definitely beneficial in that regard. Sometimes I feel like my SP really loves me, but other times I feel the opposite. And all this is because of his actions. Why is this happening, and how can I turn the situation in my favor always? So what I would do is that I would not take cues from the 3D. Rather, I would take the cues from my imaginal scenes. So, you are being 3D oriented right now, and thus the fluctuations. What I would do then is imagine my SP being like completely, happy with me, completely, being the man of my dreams and whatnot, and I would start imagining from that perspective, and that would really help you a lot here. And it ensures that you're not like focusing on the 3D, but rather you're focusing on the 4D, and your mind takes reference from that instead, and that's what the mind eventually pushes out as well. I've always been a great student, but don't know why suddenly I'm performing badly. Like, I understand I have fear of numbers due to which I'm scoring bad in economics, but how are my strengths uh, getting screwed? Okay, so what I would do is that, if you're having a fear of numbers, ask yourself why and try to get to the core of the issue. Like, you can just say things like, you're now great with numbers, right? And start, small and building up your confidence from there. And then, what I would say is that build up with that momentum, right? Take a very, step by step kind of approach with this. So, solve one thing at a time and build up your confidence. But the first step is telling yourself that you are good with numbers. You have to change your thought there, right? Like you said, you've always been a great student. So a great student is good at, everything, right? So come at it from that perspective and start putting in the idea in your mind that you are now good with numbers. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, how to stop asking so many questions and trusting instead? Understanding that these questions aren't going to lead you anywhere. Rather, at the end of the day, it's all about getting the results. It's being very result driven. So what I would do is that, you can ask yourself like, okay, why am I chattering so much? Like, just, quiet the mind, like just shh, right? That's what Chris Evans used to say. He always says that the mind has like two different languages, and like the silence of the mind speaks a completely different language, right? And I would say, like, one thing that I always do in order to not ask so many questions is prioritizing my peace and happiness. And giving myself the mental peace of mind is something that's really, really important for me. And I always tell myself like, okay, quiet the mind, don't ask so many questions, because sometimes these questions are useless in the sense that it's not going to lead me to anywhere favorable anyway. So what is this doing there, right? And you have to recognize like whether those questions are coming from the ego mind or those questions are coming from a place of self-empowerment. Chances are these questions that you're referring to is coming from the ego mind anyway. So I would just tell myself like, okay, these questions aren't going to lead me to a favorable place. I'm just going to focus on my desires and I'm just going to go by my life, right? If there's so many questions and whatnot, I would just like focus on the present moment. I would distract myself with something else, and then I would come back to it when my mind feels better about the whole situation. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm sorry I can't reply to like specific messages, but honestly, yeah, like thank you so much for all the kind words you guys are saying right now. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let me just take a quick water break, and feel free to type out any other questions you guys have. I don't think there's any private questions or whatsoever yet as well. Okay, so I want to keep checking proofs and progress in the 3D. I can stop that by living in the end, right? Yes. So if you already can see the end in your mind, technically speaking, progress wouldn't matter, because movement A doesn't always happen in front of you. It can actually happen behind the scenes as well. So the issue with that is that, even if you think like there aren't any movement, there's always movement behind the scenes, right? So if you are judging, like your progress using 3D, it's probably the worst way to do so. I always tell my clients like, check your progress or measure your progress using the quality of your thoughts instead. And that's what I always tell my clients to do. And and a large part of it is by living in the end, as you said. So yeah, it definitely helps for sure. And always check on your quality of your thoughts, and that'll really help as well. Other than Neville Goddard, who else do you enjoy reading lectures? For example, Joseph Murphy is one, simply because they are from, they were mentored by Abdullah. So Joseph Murphy is a teacher that I always like tend to go back to. Jim Rohn, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's more of like a motivational speaker who talks about like wealth building and whatnot. Like that's one I always go back to, like simply just for the motivation factor of it. Certain speeches that I always like is 2005 Stanford speech by Steve Jobs. That's one that I always go back to. Again, just for the motivational aspect of it. Like besides Neville, like manifestation wise, at least I always go back to Joseph Murphy. Yeah, and I also watch like certain YouTubers of favorites of mine, and yeah, that kind of keeps me afloat. Although right now I don't even have time to watch YouTube videos. I watch like one or two here and there. I go back to like God's Law and His Promise by Neville, and whatnot. But that's about it, honestly. Okay, so can you affirm for two SPs? So yes, you can, provided you know what the end goal is. The main thing with these types of like 2 or 3 SP kind of situations is clarity is super duper important. I always recommend people not to go in that route simply due to the fact that you have to ask yourself like, and I don't know you as a person, so you know yourself the best. So you have to ask yourself like, do I have the clarity to even pursue this in the first place, right? Like, do I have enough clarity to say I am manifesting 2 SPs, and these are the things that I expect from them, without getting sucked into the complexity of it, without being confused by it, because your mind, it's like it takes whatever that you are feeding it and it regurgitates it into the 3D. So you have to ask yourself like, okay, am I feeding it the proper things? Am I feeding it the proper building blocks to expect whatever that I want in the 3D? So yes, you can manifest 2 SPs by affirming for them and whatnot, but you have to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm manifesting from these 2 SPs, and what is it that I'm hoping to gain out of it. Clarity is super duper important with these types of things in order for you to navigate it with ease. Otherwise you end up getting more confused and just complicating the whole process for yourself. So be very clear whatever that you're doing. Also, one more question. My B was nice to the people who did me dirty, so I'm hurt now, to let go of that and forgive him, please. So what I would do is that revising it would be ideal here, and like ask yourself like, okay, what thoughts led him to maybe doing that in the first place, right? If they weren't in alignment with you, and this person went on to be nice with them and whatnot, what is it like? Did you think like, okay, this person is not always in support of me? Or what is it like? Like you can say like, okay, why is it that people are only nice to him but not me? Maybe what are the core thoughts that try to identify that and revise this scene, and revising it, getting the apology from him in your mind, and dropping it, moving forward, that would be helpful. So yeah, those are the things that you can do. Does seeing the end in the mind, does it even change a narcissist, since it's a disorder developed since a kid? It definitely does. I think I highly recommend like reading The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. He goes into detail there, but long story short, the essence of it is that you can change people by putting them in a different state, right? Like regardless of how long it has been, the only reason it has sustained for that long is because somewhere this person was told that, okay, this is something that they can't maybe cure, or this is a psychological disorder that can't really be fully be cured, or fully be changed, and that this is part of who they are, for example. And so that could have ingrained in their mind, right? Or the world could have been showing them patterns that only reinforce the negative thing in their mind, but they can fully eradicate it, and you can help by start imagining them in a positive, favorable light, and seeing them as someone who's fully healed psychologically, who's the kindest, most loving person, and that will start changing them. And even if you don't see the change like upfront, like keep telling yourself that the change is happening on a cellular level, and that they are becoming better and better every single day, and that should help you. You're welcome. Yeah. So how to forgive SP when he was nice to the people who did me dirty? So it's the repeat, right? So yeah, just revising it, and just intend that he understands them and whatnot. Again, these things, I feel like these are unnecessary things that you are like adding onto the equation. Like what I would say is that strip it down to the bare bones of it, and just focus on your union with your SP, and that should be more than enough. So how to get better at conscious manifestation, as I overthink a lot and have doubts usually, and I think because of that IDK when I shift my focus on the 3D and the cycle continues. So you need to, again, like what I just said earlier, like strip everything down to its bare bones. At the end of the day, it's you and your desires. That's it, right? Like there's no 3D, there's no obstacles, there's nothing else. There's only you and your desires. And all you're doing right now is you're saying that your desire is already yours and just accepting that as a fact in your mind, right? And the more you do this, the more you're telling yourself, okay, my desire is already mine, and continue to accept that as a reality. It should all pan out in your favor. And for overthinkers, I always say, like, make it simple for yourself, because you're overthinking due to you thinking that there are so many factors and pieces or players involved in the equation. Thus you're complicating everything. You're trying to think like how it will all piece together in order for you to get whatever that you want. But rather, what I would say is that if you want to get better at conscious manifesting, like break it down, simplify it for yourself, like forget all the complicated stuff, right? It's always you and your desire. And when you come at it from that perspective, you will really stop overthinking. And one thing that people always ask me is, can it be really as that simple as that? And the answer is always a resounding yes. Again, we are always taught that, by society, that, things always have to be very complicated, things can't be easy and whatnot. And part of manifesting is understanding that it's actually the exact opposite of it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. What is my favorite word? Sorry, I'm not sure what's Safras. Or success story. Is it like my personal one, or is it like Neville's or anything that I've heard on the outside? No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Anyone. So I guess like Neville's would be like some of my favorite success stories. How he got out from the army was something that always inspires me, because like knowing what goes on in there, how he managed to get out of the conscripted service, and how he, and I even have a post on this as well, but it's really crazy to think about how much conviction this person had in an environment like that. How he just persisted in the idea of him being in New York with his daughter and wife and whatnot, and him just like persisting in that, as much as he can. And within 9 days, like things just turned in his favor. And 9 days might seem like a very short period of time, but again, in an environment where like Neville was, it might feel like an eternity. And just seeing that all the time, like just hearing that story in particular, that really inspires me. And I remember he said like there was a vision where like a hand came and scratched out the disapproved and like wrote approved, and he just left it at that. He just did whatever that he wanted to do from there. He just went by his training and whatnot, and within 9 days the person who rejected his approval came to him and got him the dismissal from there. So I really am inspired by that specific story, because the obstacles that were involved there just seemed a bit more quote unquote solid than other stories, because you can't really this was a very like a pivotal point in the world's history and whatnot. And I just felt that the fact that he was able to do this and he didn't consult anyone, he just stuck to his gut, he knew what he wanted, and he just went after it. So I really think that that's one of my favorite success stories that I always kind of think about. When you think of phrases and concepts like meant to be and destiny, how does this relate to the law of assumption / attraction and similar? I hope this makes sense. Okay. For me, if it's quote unquote something that's meant to be of its destiny, if we make it to be, right? Like there is no such thing as that unless we say so. So it's all about what we make it mean, because there are infinite parallel realities. So the way I see it is, like there's no such thing as destiny, because you can be anything and everything that you want to be. But having said that, if you do think that, okay, this was meant to be, chances are like that is the path that's kind of being nudged to you. That's the path of like least resistance. So, in that way you can argue that, okay, maybe that was meant to be because I'm experiencing the least amount of resistance with it. But there's really no such thing. I mean, you can label anything as this is my path and I'm meant to be, maybe an astronaut, for example, and that becomes your path, right? There's no right or wrong way to go about it. Like whatever you say becomes true. So that's how I view the whole thing. Yeah. So if there's any other questions, let me know, guys. I'll try to wrap it up in like about 10 minutes or so. Yeah. And this live will be posted on YouTube anyway. So if you guys need to catch a replay of that, I'll try to post it ASAP by end of the day so that you guys can go and watch the replay as well. And if you guys have any other further questions, just put it down in the comments of the video itself, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. So I'll be just here for another 10 minutes and we'll wrap it up then. I'm trying to see if I missed out any questions or whatsoever in the meantime. Okay, there's another one. Negative thoughts keep coming back. How to ignore it? You don't have to ignore it. Like that's the whole twist to this, is that you don't have to ignore your negative thoughts. Rather, you get into the observer state of mind. Like you're not your thoughts, you're the observer that is within. So what I would do is that I would say that, okay, I'm not my thoughts, and I would just let it pass by like clouds rather than giving importance to it. And I always have this like rule in my reality that only favorable thoughts manifest for me. So no matter how bad the unfavorable thoughts can come, because I have that rule that says only favorable thoughts manifest for me, I don't really have to worry about it. And because I have that rule, like it just kind of fades away into nothingness. So that's what I would do. Hey, thank you for all your posts. They are really helpful and knock sense in me whenever I spiral or anything. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I know manifesting is 24/7, but what do you suggest to navigate mental health? So what exactly would you like talk about when you're talking about mental health? Like, is there anything specific? Or and having difficulty in revision and believing it, so just focus on future presence, right? So yeah, like I mean, you can think about the future just like being something that's malleable. Like whatever happened, fair enough, but right now I have a whole bright future ahead of me. So what am I going to do? I have that choice, right? Or just focusing on the present moment itself. That should be something that you can just think about, and like focus on making this current moment a peaceful and happy one for you, and then do that for the next moment, and then the next moment, and then the next moment, and then before you know it, you have taken throughout the day full of like positivity and peace in your mind, right? And then do it for the next day. So I would say like make it like shorten your horizons and make it easy for you every single moment, and that way you are creating a life that's full of peace and joy basically. Okay, for example, let's say you have anxiety and depression, and you have a hard time living in the end. What do you suggest? Okay, so those things you mentioned, I used to be clinically diagnosed with those two things at one point. Here's what I did. I would say accept where I am at right now. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Okay, this is my situation right now. Yes, there were some choices that led to this. It's okay. But this is where I'm at right now. It's okay. Like I try to be as empathetic and kind to myself as much as possible. That's one thing I did. Second thing I did was, okay, where do I want to be? I started clearly defining that. I don't care about whether it's impossible or not and things like that. I know where I want to be, and I started clearly defining that in my mind. It can be a very short-term goal. It doesn't have to be a very long-term goal. At that point, I couldn't see too far off into the future because of my anxiety and whatnot. But I started telling myself, okay, like just take it, like one step at a time, and like focus on the current goal. So that's what I did. And the other thing is, stop labeling yourself as though you are a person with anxiety and depression. Like don't reinforce that. Like say that you are a mentally stable person who can navigate anything, who is able to handle situations and things like that. And start seeing yourself as a mentally healthy person as well. So those are the two things that I would do. If you have a hard time living in the end, again, shorten your horizons, go at it like one short-term goal at a time, go at it one milestone at a time, and focus on the present moment, focus on the tasks at hand. And that's how I would navigate the whole thing. I hope that makes sense. I'm very emotional and I cry a lot, and I was so emotionally intense for my SP. How to change that? I mean, crying is okay. Like, it's not something that is, something that you have to stop or whatsoever. Like, if you can, cry it out and let it out of your system rather than suppressing it, I think that's completely fine. I don't think that's something to be, worried about and whatnot. Like, because the thing is, when you're crying, you're letting out a lot of things and you feel much lighter anyways. But how do you emotionally, like how do you change that part where you're emotionally intense for your SP and whatnot? Put the emphasis on you. Put the emphasis on you, and because you're the main character, right? SP is not the main character, so you have to really come at it from the perspective that you're the main character here, and you have to really start thinking about yourself and your developments and how good of a person you are and how lucky he is to have you, rather than thinking about it from the perspective that like, how can I be in union with him? Think about it like, okay, why should I accept him into my life, and how can he be the perfect guy for me? And I think if you think about it this way, it will really help you a lot. Yeah. What do you do with the feeling of missing your SP? I mean, absolutely, I know he's mine 100%, but I miss talking to him or spending time with him, physical touch, conversations, imagining. These are the ways I would go about it. Like, I mean, yeah, like, physical touch wise, like, you can always imagine like being like, just cuddling with them and things like that. But I would primarily focus on like, conversations. I think that really helps a lot. Give to yourself what you expect from the 3D in your mind, and that should really help you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. How to deal with no contact? Go about your life and enjoy it, make the most out of it. See it as these are the few days that you're going to be single, so how are you going to enjoy your life, right? Like, make the most out of it, put the emphasis on yourself, and like, live every like moment, like, maximize it. And that's how I would go about it. And know that this is a very temporary situation, and if you have any unfavorable thoughts about your SP, now is the time to sit down and change it, because you don't have contradictory information constantly popping up in the 3D. Like, no contact in that way, it's a huge blessing, because whenever folks are navigating like changing their SPs and whatnot, if they're constantly showing up in the 3D as another version, it's harder for people to persist in the ideal version in their mind. Whereas in no contact, you don't have that. So this is how I would use it. He left me because he thinks I was pushing for commitment, so I will just imagine commitment with him and live in the end, right? Absolutely. Yeah. If you're pushing for something, chances are you think that you are expecting validation from the 3D. There's a bit of anxiety there. So, deal with that as well. Yeah. What I would do is that I would start thinking like feeling more secure in myself. And again, make yourself the main character and SP secondary to yourself. And think about how he will come to you with a commitment proposal and whatnot. And that will help you. So I'm going to be wrapping up in about 5 minutes, guys. So if you guys have any other questions, just let me know. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that I left out or whatsoever. If I left out any questions earlier on, if I didn't answer any of your questions, kindly let me know, and I'll answer it right now. Oh, no. You can ask any other questions as well. Yeah. Okay, not manifesting question, but Nasi Lama or chicken rice? Okay, I think you're Singaporean, or probably Malaysian, I'm not sure. But Nasi Lama or chicken rice? Oof. It's a good question. I think I like both. But if I really have to pick, if the Nasi Lemak comes with a fried chicken, I'd go with a Nasi Lemak. Yeah, as much as I love chicken rice, I do think that Nasi Lemak like takes the cake, like, because that's more of childhood for me. So yeah. Do you think that was a good question? I'm Singaporean, but I don't know if the other person who asked that question was Singaporean or Malaysian. Yeah. Okay, so do you think we can feel anyone else's energy, or it's our own energy? That's a good question. I feel like yes, we can feel others' energy for sure, but then again, it's all us. Everyone is just pushed out. So the way I see it, it's all our energy at the end of the day. We are feeling them through us, is how I put it. But yeah, you can just, if you really want to simplify it, you can just say that it's all our energy at the end of the day. Okay, I was perceiving fearful thoughts, how to deal and erase it. Okay, so with fearful thoughts is very simple, right? Like, again, separate yourself from the idea that you are not your thoughts. Like, really see yourself as the observer that's within, the unconditioned awareness, the I am, and see your thoughts as being separate to you. And again, tell yourself that only favorable thoughts manifest for you. That's the one way I really deal with it. Because if only favorable thoughts manifest for me, however severe these unfavorable thoughts are, technically speaking, I wouldn't be able to manifest it. Yeah. I hope to see you on accident. I'll treat you for makan. Oh my god, that's so sweet. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to bump into people in Singapore anyways, but then again, I don't hang out a lot. Yeah. Tips to live in the end. I tend to keep checking 3D. Honestly, like, ask yourself, what is it that you're hoping to see in the 3D? Like, what is it that you're hoping to see in the 3D that will, quell your, inner storm, so to speak, right? And when you do that, give it to yourself in your mind, and that'll really help you a lot, I would say. So yeah, that's what I would do if I were you, is like, dwell more in your imaginal scenes, shut the door to the 3D, and go about your life, right? Like, simplify it for yourself, and focus on the present moment, focus on your hobbies, and focus on other aspects of your life as well. And this way, you will stop checking 3D, right? If you're checking 3D, you have a bit of free time, right? So use that time, invest that time into something more productive. So that's a practical way of dealing with it, I would say. Yeah. How can I manifest good health for my dad and family? Again, so I answered this question earlier as well, but the basic premise is that start putting them in that state of mind, in that state of health. Start seeing your father as the healthiest he ever is, and like him having a conversation with you in your mind, like him saying that I feel so healthy, I feel so alive, and I really feel like I'm back in my 30s and things like that, for example. And really start putting him in that state, being very rejuvenated and feeling very alive and radiant and whatnot, and start seeing him in that way in your mind. And like every time when you're giving him a glass of water or something, for example, you can always say that this is making him youthful and healthy, for example. And yeah, start putting him in that state and start affirming for that. Ignore 3D again, and that should really help you here. So yeah, like, put him in that state of mind, and keep telling yourself that his body is capable of making him healthy, through the power of my subconscious mind. He is becoming healthy because we are all one. Joseph Murphy talks about it and goes into detail, but the idea is that we are all one, we are all connected that way. So when you are intending health for someone, through the power of your subconscious mind, that thought can be transferred to him as well, and he can become healthy as a result. So again, put him in that state of mind and persist in that, and he has to conform. Okay, so what if you don't have an SP or specific desire, but it's more general and open? For example, as you know, I do want to live financially stable and abundant life, but I truly don't have an exact one. Yeah, I mean, just start imagining, go general about it. Think about, okay, what would that life enable you to do, and focus on the byproduct of it. And that's a good way of going about it. Okay, if I had like financial abundance and whatnot, what would I experience as a result of it? And start imagining that instead, because that event that you're experiencing implies that you're already financially abundant and all your goals have been sorted out. So that's one way I would go about it. Yeah. Okay. There's more questions than I expected, but it's okay. I'll answer as much as I can. Okay. Only favorable thoughts manifest for me. Yes. So my P said he doesn't want to be responsible for my feelings. How to change that? Technically speaking, he's right. You're always responsible for your feelings. So control your emotions within. See it, you're always responsible for how you react and perceive things, right? How you take things, right? So always, like, again, be very end goal oriented. see everything as like happening for you and not against you, and just be relaxed with the whole thing, even if like it's seemingly unfavorable. Just go with the flow. So that's what I would do if I were you. Yeah, I think with I'm the library book dragon, it's more about just, if you don't like to put a specific number, what I would say is that, like, I think there's a fear that what if it runs out, but money is an abundant infinite supply anyway. They can always print more, so you don't have to worry about that. And you can always say that, okay, you always receive lots and lots of money. You're always financially taken care of, and you'll always have more than enough. I think that's a good one. So yeah, I was in Singapore last month, and I saw indoor waterfalls, and I was in transit. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, it's if you're here, that's definitely one thing to see. There's a lot of other places you have to go and see for sure. Yeah, let me know if you need any recommendations down the line. How about triggers, like how to come out and let go? How can I manifest good health for my dad and family? Triggers, it really depends what they are. Again, it's all about reprogramming. It's just a line of thought. So you have to write it down, and write the opposite thought to that and start affirming that instead. It's all about reprogramming your mind. It's all about redirecting your focus towards health and abundance and whatnot. It's also about relaxing your mind as well. So yeah. Productivity and creativity is the best way to stop brain loops. Love that advice. I'm glad it resonated with you. So key is accept the present moment and know this is past and live in the future present, right? Yes. So ideally speaking, whatever that you're experiencing right now, yeah, as you said, is the result of past thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs. And what am I going to do? I have a choice to think otherwise, so that I'm attracting future events based on what I'm thinking right now. So I'm gonna, put in like favorable thoughts in my mind as much as I can, and that gets regurgitated into the 3D. What I'm essentially ensuring is that my building blocks of the future is of high quality. And how do I ensure that? Is through my thoughts. I'm ensuring that whatever that I'm thinking is of high quality, so that my future is the best possible one that I can ever experience. Sure, I'll get back to you on all the coaching stuff as soon as I end this live, if you don't mind. I do have group coaching, so there is a Facebook group membership that's going to be beginning. The new membership for the month of April is going to be on the 8th of April. So it comes with we do 4 live sessions. I answer your queries there, and I post like additional resources for you guys to use as well. And all of your posts are going to be anonymous. So you don't have to worry about your identity being out there as well, even if it's within the group itself. And so if you ever need any group coaching, and also the lives will be posted on as unlisted links as well, so that you guys can go and watch it down the line if you ever want to. So there's always you have full access to the recordings down the line as well. So if you guys need any information on the Facebook group, DM me and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. One more question from me. Do you think Winston manifests? Okay, so with animals, from what Neville says, this is something that he talks about, is that only man is given the gift of mind and speech, right? So the ability to think and the ability to say out words loud. So that way I don't think they can. That's at least according to Neville. In that way, we are different and unique when it comes to living in this earth and whatnot. So that regard, I don't think so. I think they are much more like on the consciousness scale. They are much more lower than like regular humans. I mean, they can process languages and everything like that, but I think they are more like a child, like in its early days, like an infant, or like a toddler, if you will. Their consciousness scale is like much lower. So I don't think that they can manifest that way. But yeah, so like that's what I would think as well. But that's a good question. I will definitely think about it. But as far as I know, like based on what Neville has said so far, I don't think that is possible. But you never know. I sometimes tend to get caught up with time because I've been thinking for my SP for 2 months now. do I stop focusing on time? Honestly, 2 months is like, and this isn't to, like trivialize your question or whatsoever. 2 months is nothing, technically speaking, on the grand scheme of things. It's like 60 days, 4 weeks each, right? So what I would do rather is, just focus on the union and focus on, the imaginal scenes as much as possible, and focus on maximizing your life in the meantime. Go and live out your life. Like, don't put anything on hold, because the moment you do, time just seems to drag, really long, right? So if I were you, I would focus on having fun and just like making the most out of it. If I know SP is already mine and he's coming anyway, how would I spend the remaining time knowing what I know, right? And that's the perspective that I would come at it from. So yeah. My name is Gautam. Yeah. Animals are very conscious. They are like, but the ability to think, right, like at the level that we do, especially like, to comprehend that much, that's a question. Like, again, they might have like the basic, fundamental, rudimentary kind of thinking, but do they fully comprehend it is another question. And I think it varies from animal to animal. I do feel that a lot of their thinking is very, like subconscious. A lot of their subroutines handle a lot of the things that they are doing. Like birds migration, for example, they instinctively know the flight path to take from A to B, even without like being taught by their parents, right? So these things are very like, ingrained in their mind. It's very subroutine for them. So I don't think they are consciously thinking about it, but they do have some level of thinking. But the idea is that it's not as high as humans are, if you will. Sorry, it's not true. My cat was great healer and she learned something without teaching her. Please read once. Talk to Animals by Gary. I'm sharing this being Animal Whisper and Experience. Oh, definitely I'll read it in. So it's The Animals by, or is it like Talk to the Animals by Gary? Or yeah, I'll definitely read that book. No, thank you so much. I needed that. 2 months are nothing. Sometimes they feel too much. No, but honestly, they do feel too much at times. Like, I'll be the first one to empathize with that. But that's, all the more reason as to why we should, fill up that void with something else, so that we don't feel the vacuum of like, whatever that's happening right now that much more, right? So make it a point to fill up your mind with like favorable thoughts as much as possible. Yeah. What made you get into the LOA? Honestly, it was like my mom listening to the secret video at one point, and I think I've said this story before, but like long story short, like it was a part of the video that John Ashraf was like talking about manifesting his dream home and whatnot, and I just happened to pass by, and I was like, okay, what are you reading? What are you listening to? And then that's how I kind of got into it. By that time I was already spiritual. Like this was when I was 16. Like my spiritual kind of journey began when I was like 13 and stuff. So I was already kind of like looking into different philosophies and whatnot. And it just happened to, I was at the right place at the right time, and I started exploring that, and one thing led to another, and yeah, here I am. How to get rid of third party in relationships? Honestly, focus on your union. Don't see them as a obstacle, and you just persist in your union, and that's about it. But there are certainly nuances to it, stuff that I can't go through in within a few minutes of live sessions. But if you need any help in that, I do have like courses on that, so like DM me. But the crux of it is that you just focus on your union with your SP, and don't treat the 3P as an obstacle, and you should be fine. Yeah. Yes, name of the book, Talk to the Animals, you'll love it. Yeah, I'll definitely put it on my list of like books I need to read. There's a few. So yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, guys, I'll just wrap it up in a few more minutes. I didn't expect that slew of questions to come in last minute, but if you guys have any other questions, just let me know. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. And this live will be uploaded today, so don't worry about missing out or whatsoever. And you can always like comment it down, in the comment section as well when I post it on YouTube, so that you guys can, ask me a follow-up question to that or whatsoever. And I always tell people, like, you can always use that to also like follow up with me and update me, like, how like that has helped you and things like that as well. Yeah, affirmation. So affirmation to get rid of third party, like the one that I always tell my clients is me getting together with my SP works out in the best possible way for everyone involved. And yeah, that's about it. Honestly, it's, again, I like to keep things very simple and easy, so that's the only one I use there. Oh, thank you so much for all these informations, motivations, and good vibes. Thank you so much for being here and for your time as well. I really appreciate it. Fear of how to deal if positive and negative thoughts colliding. So if they are colliding, you can always say, like, what I would do is that, like, you can ask yourself, like, okay, why is it colliding? Where is, like, the negative thoughts coming from? It's probably coming from the ego mind. It's probably coming from thinking about the worst case, right? And we might be more prone to believing that, but you can always, like, give more life to the positive side of your mind by saying, well, not everything in your life has been, like, doomy and gloomy kind of way, right? There has always been, like, favorable things and positive things that you can experience. So I would really focus on more on that, and I can always say that only the favorable thoughts, like, dominate my mind. So that way, like, when I say dominate, it means that the negative thoughts have been overcome anyway. So that's something that I would tell myself. So yeah, could you repeat the affirmation slowly? Yeah, sure. So me getting together with my SP works out in the best possible way for everyone involved. How can change perception? Could you elaborate on that, Bakul? Yeah, sorry. Could you elaborate on the last question? How can you change your perception of fearful thoughts? So, like, trivialize it, like, in the sense that, in order for a thought to manifest, it has to be dominant in your mind. Not all your thoughts manifest. Rapidly changing states do not manifest. So it really has to be dominant in your mind, and your mind has to accept it. Your subconscious mind has to accept it in order for it to be pushed out. So, if it's, like, constantly changing, if it's, like, sporadic here and there, it won't manifest. So that's the way I would, like, really not worry about, like, the negative or fearful thoughts, if you will. Can we manifest in certain time period, even though you have your doubts also, but you really want this thing? As much as possible, if you can, I would say remove the time period. But yes, you can, but you have to be, like, laser focused. Of course, you really have to come at it from the perspective that, like, okay, I'm just going to be ignoring 3D. This is a fact. You have to treat it as a fact in your mind, and you cannot tolerate any doubts or whatsoever. So if you can do that, you can certainly manifest it on a time crunch. Doubts here and there are fine, but, like, don't let it become dominant in your mind, and that should be fine. Okay, I'm going to be ending this in 4 more minutes. So if you guys have any other questions, just let me know. And yeah, I'm going to be uploading this onto YouTube anyway. So yeah, you can always put it down in the comments as well. For those of you who are just joining, I know there are a few of you just joining right now. Like this for a specific exam, like, just focus on doing well, focus on yourself being a good student, and just seeing the results. But, like, do whatever you have to do in the 3D to kind of boost your confidence as well, and that will really help you. So yeah, and with exams, I know there's always a time factor involved and whatnot, but what I would definitely say is that don't make it like a make it or break it thing. Take the pressure off of that and think about your overall goal, and that way you are like putting less pressure on yourself as well. Yeah. Time crunch. Lol, I tried manifesting in time crunch. That made me so anxious. Drop the whole plan. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you are manifesting on a time crunch, it's not for the faint-hearted, in the sense that you don't want to put so much pressure on yourself to the point where you are anxious, and more. It causes more reason for you to, like, spiral. Like, if like, if that's something that's causing you, like, for you to, like, spiral more and think about all the unfavorable thoughts and whatnot. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't put time crunch on myself. What's up? How's it? Hey, I'm doing good. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Human imagination. So the key is detachment from thoughts, and don't ignore and accept knowledge favorable thoughts. Yeah, pretty much it's about, accepting like favorable thoughts, and the key is detachment in the sense that you're always separate from your thoughts, and the moment you realize it, your thoughts have lesser power. And also realizing that not all your thoughts manifest, is the dominant thoughts that manifest. So the sporadic ones here and there, you don't have to worry about it, because we have like 70,000 thoughts a day. We can't be managing all of them, right? So you have to always come at it from the perspective that I'm not going to be sitting here micromanaging all of my thoughts, but as long as my overall story of my life is favorable, I should be good. I've been trying to manifest my SP for a year, keep sleeping, how to remain consistent and ignore unfavorable circumstances. Focus on your imaginal scenes, give more weight to that, and focus on other aspects of your life, focus on other goals. Make SP an aspect of your life rather than being your entire life, and that removes a lot of the pressure from this, I would say. Thank you. It's always such a boost of encouragement to listen in. Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for joining. I can affirm this: I am already pursuing that degree, and I already have cleared the exam, and this is just a formality. Is this enough? Yeah, I think that's plenty. You can always see yourself studying in your dream uni. That way, whatever that you think matters doesn't really even matter in the long run. Hi, could you please let me know about getting synchronicities while manifesting? What I would say is that synchronicities are like a bonus. You can always give it a favorable meaning. Like if you see like 1111, you can always say that this is favorable for me, and this means I'm on the right track and whatnot, right? But it always takes on the meaning that you project onto it. So give it a favorable meaning, pat yourself on the shoulders, and keep going. Because if it's your end goal, like if that's not your end goal, right? So getting the signs is not your end goal. So just focus on your end goal and just keep going. So that's what I would do. Thank you. I'd like to know more about your FB group. So if you're asking about the paid one, I come up 4 times live a month, and all the sessions are recorded. And you can also ask like questions, and I'll answer them as well within like a day or two. And I don't do this for my free Facebook group anymore. That's being run by my moderators and like just by the community itself. And so if you need any information on like the paid Facebook group, just DM me and I'll guide you through accordingly. What's your go-to technique for manifesting? I personally love visualizing. I love visualizing. Honestly, I really like visualizing. I like affirming. Affirmation tapes is something that I recently got into, and it has really worked for me. Because I customize it for myself and whatnot. So that has really worked for me as well. So those are the things that I do. And just writing things down, writing my affirmations down, and feeling that relief and peace in my mind, and just going about taking one day at a time, and maximizing every moment, like living in the present as much as possible. That has helped me a lot recently. So yeah. So I'll just make this the last one. Suppose fearful thoughts dominating, how to nullify those till the time favorable thoughts dominate. Tell yourself that like only favorable thoughts manifest, like I said earlier, and tell yourself I'm not my thoughts. And like just tell yourself that okay, this is not true, this isn't not in my reality. Whenever unfavorable thoughts come to your mind, just tell yourself not in my reality. So that's how I would like handle it right now. And you said 11:11 at 11 a.m. here in Thailand, and 11 people viewing. Wow, okay, that's a big synchronicity right there. And and that Katie, thank you so much for managing and answering all the questions in the group as well. Facebook wise, I really appreciate your contributions there. Just wanted to thank you. So guys, that's it. So if you guys have any other questions, leave it in the YouTube video when I post this on YouTube. But I'm going to be wrapping this up because it's kind of stretched way longer than I did. And if you guys have any questions on my coaching or whatsoever, DM me and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. And thank you for joining, guys. And I know it's a Sunday, so thank you for coming in and asking all these questions and whatnot. I'm sure like even if you're watching a replay of it, like you would have benefited from a lot of these questions as well. So guys, stay safe and happy manifesting. Peace.